Welcome back to the channel. Today we're working on a 1992 Mazda Miata, and this is the first generation, also known as the NA. The reason we're working on this car today is the clutch pedal does not seem to be building pressure. So after doing some research, I found that there's a kit from Goodwin Racing LLC, and it comes with the master cylinder, slave cylinder, and a replacement stainless steel braided line that goes all the way from the master to the slave cylinder, replacing the three original lines that are currently in the car. Alright, comes with some high temp 570 racing brake fluid. Now we have this replacement line, and this goes from, well, replacement hose. This goes from the master cylinder all the way to the slave cylinder. And here we have the clutch slave cylinder and the clutch master cylinder. So this is what the kit looks like out of the boxes. We got the slave cylinder, master cylinder, and the line that goes from the master to the slave. So now I'm going to go ahead and show you inside the car what all we're going to be removing and how we're going to route this new line. So let's go ahead and jump into the car. We'll go over where the components are currently, and then we will get on to removing the old stuff and reinstalling the new stuff. We've got the master cylinder right here, and you can see the line coming off of it, going along the firewall. And then you can see right there, there's a junction. So here we go from the hard line to the soft line, follow it down, and there's another junction where it turns into the hard line. And then that's the curled part. And air bubbles tend to get trapped at the top of these curls. And then the slave cylinder is right down there. I'll get a close-up once I get the car up in the air and get the front wheel off so we can get a better look at it. Right here is the slave cylinder, and you can see there are two bolts holding it to the engine, and those are 12mm bolts. We will be removing those. We'll also be removing this curly hard line right here, and I believe that is a 10mm. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and probably break this line loose here and catch the fluid coming out of this, and then we'll extract the fluid from the reservoir up top. So this will be my first time using a vacuum bleeder. So I just picked this up from Harbor Freight, and we're going to use this to bleed the system once we're done replacing the master and slave cylinder and the brake line. But I'm also going to use it to extract the fluid from the reservoir before I get started. I've got all the fluid out of the system, so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start with removing the top firewall hard line. I'm going to get that out of the way, and then I'll probably just get all the old line off, and then I'll take the master cylinder and slave cylinder. I'm not sure which order just yet. I'm going to go ahead and get started on pulling that hard line off of the firewall. I'll be using a 10mm line wrench or a flare nut wrench. So now we're going to move over to the junction where the rubber hose is. While we're waiting for that to work, we're going to go down to the bottom and we are going to get the line off down there. So this big long extension might look funny to you, but I'll show you how this comes in handy. So as you can see, I'm all the way outside the car, but I have a socket all the way at the engine. Alright, so hopefully the liquid wrench has had a minute to do some penetration. So we'll see if we can break this connection loose. Okay, so that doesn't want to come loose, which is fine. Okay. I got it. Well, that was the worst part. So I had to cut this end near the curly Q at the bottom, and I cut this end at the top. Like I said, we're putting a new stainless line on, so we don't need this anyway. So after watching some videos, that bottom 12mm has given some people some fits, so I figure I'm gonna try to be a little creative on how to remove it. So earlier I showed you this little short extension. So I'm gonna put a swivel on it and a 12mm ratchet socket, just a regular old ratchet here. Alright, I got it. Got him. Alright. Got the slave cylinder. So, while we're here, I'm going to go ahead and install the new slave cylinder. Alright, got the bottom one tight. Okay. Alright, well, the old slave cylinder's off, new one's on. We're going to go remove the old master cylinder, which should be much easier to see. Finally, we can turn our attention to the master cylinder here, and I just wanted to show you the setup that I have here. I've got a deep well 12mm, a 1-inch extension, and a 3/8 ratchet. I want to show you how well this fits here, and then I'll put the camera back on the tripod. But you can see it's a perfect fit for that side as well as the side here. So I'll put a link in the description for this basic setup. We'll go ahead and remove the master cylinder. Alright, here is the old master cylinder. To be real clear on this, I don't necessarily believe that there was an issue with the master cylinder or the slave cylinder on this car. What I have read is that on these Miatas, because there's a vent don't know if you can, yeah, you can see right there. There's a vent in this cap, and supposedly you need to bleed the clutch system on an annual basis. So I actually believe that might be the biggest problem, but this particular person has had his car in the shop for the last 6 years on a pretty regular basis, and I just wanted to make sure that the rubber hose that goes from the Firewall to the curly hardline, I'd read that that is also a weak link in this particular system. So I was looking for the best solution for him, and that was just there was a kit for the master cylinder, slave cylinder, and the stainless steel braided line that goes from the master to the slave, and that eliminates the soft rubber hose and any inconsistency between the hard, and then you've got the rubber and then back to hard. So this looked like the best option, and there were a lot of good reviews. So anyway, I just want to throw that in and let you know why we decided to go this route. And it was fairly inexpensive as well. So hopefully, with the exception of bleeding the system on a regular basis, an annual basis at least, he shouldn't have this problem anymore. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and get the new master cylinder ready to go. I'm gonna show you how to bench bleed it, and this will be my first time, so we'll do that together. Here's the new master cylinder. What we're going to do is just put a little fluid in here, and this is the Wilwood. This is the Wilwood high temperature racing brake fluid. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and pour some in here, and then I'm going to use a screwdriver to plunge into the back and basically just get some of the fluid into this main body here. So I'll be real honest with you, I'm not sure what the purpose is. One guy said to get the seals lubricated. I'm not real sure. So anyway, and hopefully you can see how much is in there. And then actually after the little bench bleeding, that should go down a little bit. Probably should have taken the cap off. Alright, we got liquid, so I'm going to go ahead and put this in place. And I'm not sure if this is necessary since I'm going to be using a vacuum, like a one-man vacuum setup. So I'm going to go ahead and put the cap back on that I shot out of here. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and reinstall this. We're going to go ahead and install this, and then we can start routing the new line, the new clutch line. Alright, so now we have the slave cylinder in place. We've got the master cylinder in place, and it is time to route the new stainless line. And we'll go ahead and take a look at where we're going to run that. Alright, here we are ready to attach the stainless line to the master cylinder. I think earlier I said that this was a 7/16. It's actually 9/16. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this cap off, get this threaded on, and then go ahead and thread this on. Now, One thing I'm not real sure of is why they sent this crush washer, because I've already tried threading this on and it bottoms out before it would get to the crush washer. And then the other side that the 90-degree attaches to, I'm pretty sure it does not bottom out either. Yeah, so that's kind of confusing to me. I'm gonna leave it off and gonna go ahead and get this piece on, get this attached, and we will route the wire or the hose. And then we're going to use a 1/2 inch on here, but we're not quite ready for that yet. I'm going to go ahead and finish routing the hose to the slave cylinder before I tighten these connections completely. Alright, so hopefully we can see. I'm going to pull that blue plug out and then we'll go ahead and start threading in the stainless hose. Alright, so we'll go back up top. Well, now that all of the connections have been made, we can go ahead and fill the reservoir and start doing the bleeding process. I'm going to go ahead and put some fluid in the reservoir here. I'm going to let it go kind of full because I'll be pulling a lot through the line. So now I'm going to go ahead and hook up the vacuum bleeder and start bleeding the line. Alright, so we are hooked up. I'm going to start pulling vacuum and then we will break the bleeder loose and hopefully we'll start pulling fluid. Alright, so I got tired of using the vacuum pump, so I took a syringe and there's a vent hole right here on the cap. So in order to get it going, I just covered that hole with a syringe, pushed down on the syringe. And then one thing I noticed is the bleeder valve, or the brake line on the slave cylinder, I didn't have completely tight, so it started leaking and that's probably why I was struggling to get the vacuum pump to work. So now that I've got fluid in the line, I'm going to go ahead and continue to pump with the vacuum pump over there and see if that helps. Alright, so we are done. I just got in the car and I pumped the brakes, or I pumped the clutch a little bit, but I tested, pushed clutch in, and I was able to shift into gears just fine. That was the problem that we had prior, is that pushing the clutch in didn't give us accurate pressure on the slave cylinder, allowing the clutch to disengage completely to allow you to shift into gears. So I was able to start the car, shift into all the gears with no problems. So now we are done with bleeding the clutch, and this job is done. I'm just going to wipe everything down and pump the clutch a few times, make sure we have no leaks, and we'll call this job done. So here's the new master cylinder, the new stainless clutch hose. You can see it runs down through here, not touching any of the motor. And then here you can see the stainless line running to the new slave cylinder. So now I'm going to go ahead and take it for a drive, and we're going to see how it shifts. Just took the Miata for a test drive. Everything's working good, so we're going to go ahead and wrap up this video. If you like the content, go ahead and like, and if you want to see more things like this, go ahead and subscribe. See you on the next video.